Hello, welcome back to the Sing Confidently Live Creatively podcast. Estelle here, and I'm really excited for you guys to meet Heather Edwards. She is a confidence coach. She is the host of the Crazy Confidence pod. Oh no, Crazy Confidence podcast, right?
The
Okay,
Crazy Confidence Coach podcast.
coach
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes.
Eh, my bad, you guys. I butchered.
No worries.
But the
There's
Crazy
a there's
Confidence
a story to
Coach
the name.
podcast. Okay, we're gonna get into that. And you guys, I love Heather's podcast. I love what she does because she helps people build confidence in who they are and who God has made them to be. And I feel like that's something like I immediately wanted to bring that to you guys because I know that it's so hard for us as creatives and for performers to step out sometimes because of that lack of confidence. So get ready to chat with me and Heather. We're gonna get into all the weeds of it. So, Heather, welcome to the show. I'm excited for us to chat. Sorry, I messed up the name at the beginning. It's
Well,
okay.
thank you so much for having me, and absolutely not a problem. So, in the world of coaches, I have lots of coaches, and my coach told me, I don't know about that name. People are going to think that you're crazy. And I'm like, oh, well, I am, but that isn't the point.
Crazy confident.
Yes, I'm like,
Okay.
it's crazy confident. So
Yeah,
anyway, I love it. No
that's great.
worries. It's amazing. So I'm happy to be here and I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Yay. Well, let's jump right into it. I always like to start with you as a person, you as well, you're creative because you're a podcast host. You're creating content for people that's really impacting them. And so how did you get to be doing what you're doing now? Like, what was the journey to get there? Because every person has a journey. And I want everyone listening to know that your confidence, like you as an artist, it has a journey. There's a journey behind that too. So what's your journey to being where you are now and doing what you do?
Yes. Oh, so there is a journey. And even though I speak about confidence, I'm
Yeah.
not always confident. So there's the
Mm.
biggest,
Speak on that too.
yes, like, so I
Yeah.
love when people will be real with their audience. And that is something that is real for me. The whole
Yeah.
reason that I am where I am and doing what I'm doing is that I really want to help women, especially. I just have a
Yeah.
heart for women come to a place where they understand that their dreams or whatever they have in their heart that God's placed on their heart, they have in them what they need to do it. But oftentimes we're like, wait, not me. And so I laugh at my journey because when I actually, it has to kind of go back to when I got married. When my husband and I got married, we experienced several big losses in our life. We lost three children back to back. And so we had three miscarriages. And then I was double
Yeah.
diagnosed with cancer. And so what happened with that was that I had to, or chose to, I guess, have a hysterectomy, which completely put everything to bed that we would be able to have our own children. And it crushed me in
Mm.
a way that I had never experienced before. And I have to note one other thing. I was 40 when we got married. So I was older in life already.
Mm.
I waited very, very long to get married. And but I found the right guy. And that just was a very tough time for me. And what it did is it crushed my confidence. So
Mm.
most of my life, up to that point, I was a pretty confident person. Not that I ever I didn't struggle with confidence sometimes, but self, the view of myself was, oh, I can do whatever I want to do. And this just took the sails out of me.
Mm.
Cancer, of course, is a big diagnosis anyway, but to be diagnosed at the same time with two cancers and then the loss of the children, I was still in that. So anyway, there was all
Mm.
of that going on. And what happened for me is I got really depressed. And I was at home. I would get up with my husband and get him off to work, and then I would go back to bed. Like I couldn't get out of bed. And even though I'm a woman of faith, and I definitely have a personal relationship, I struggled. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand why God was like, wait, not giving me these dreams of mine. And so ultimately what happened is I kept struggling and finally one day I was like, all right, I can't continue to do this. My poor husband deserves a wife that is engaged, and he married me, and there's more to us, just all the things that just happened. And of course, there's the other part of that, is that cancer made me want to live more in a way too. So there were these two competing things. And I found a life coach myself. So for about 3 years, I was getting coached. And the power of that coaching completely changed my life. And I don't, other than basketball coaches and, sports and stuff that I had done in my life, I had never experienced a life coach. And so that experience, really, it was on my heart that, hey, I want women who have been struggling like me to get that.
Mm.
I'm getting emotional, and I don't even know why. But was in such a dark place, and I just truly wanted other people to get out of that dark place. And the part that I typically don't tell with the story is that I also lost two friends during that time who took their own lives. And so there was so much going on in that 5 year period, 6 year period. And I just really thought there's got to be more. And the life coach that I experienced, and I have not stopped hiring coaches since. I have so many coaches in my life, and I just love making that difference. So that's how I got started. And the confidence piece, I think for me, why I started the podcast and why confidence came up for me is there was a consistency. Well, I guess I didn't even say. So after 3 years of getting coaches, I got certified. And then I just kept getting certifications and doing more studying because I'm a little obsessed with coaching. But what I was seeing with people when I would work with them is that most of the time, the core issue was a belief that they had about themselves, or a belief that they didn't have about themselves. So that comes down, that core issue is confidence. So that's why I chose confidence. I've coached all kinds of people on all kinds of things, but confidence usually is tied in some way. And part of my core teachings is what I call DIRT: your doubts, insecurities, resistance, and your triggers. All of those things wrapped up into confidence. And that's what I help people do. I help them work
Wow.
through those things. And when you work on your doubts, you work on your insecurities, what are you resistant to? Do you not want to do the practice? Do you not want to do what you need to do? Do you not want to get a vocal coach? Whatever it is. And then your triggers. What are the things from your past that you're taking forward that are keeping you from believing in yourself? So that's the probably long story, long-winded. Us creatives, we talk a lot. We're used to.
Yeah, that's why we have podcasts. No,
Yes,
perfect.
amen.
That was so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I literally got chills when you were talking about the getting the mentor, getting the coach, because I know, like, I felt that same way when I first started working with my mentor, who is specifically a mentor for creatives. And I like, your story is so powerful and heartbreaking. Like, you experienced so much grief in such a short period of time. And anyway, I mean, even that's like, that amount of grief, like over a lifetime, is already so painful. And I'm just like, I thank God for bringing you through, because that is just so much pain that you went through. But, thank God that you weren't alone in that. And I think having someone around you who can see who you can be and who God has made you to be, and call that out, and call you up to that, and help you build that confidence, is so important. Because sometimes you just don't have, like, you don't even know where to start. Like, you don't you don't even know, you don't know what to look at. And but you were able to, you had someone who was able to kind of help you, okay, start to uncover, like, where do we start, and then where do we go from there for you to build confidence. Now you help people do that, looking at their doubt, their insecurities, their resistance, their triggers, right? So that they can, like, okay, expose the problem, like dig deep into that, and then build confidence from there. And it's so good. I loved hearing her story. I did not experience such pain in that way. And but I do I do know that feeling of, like, finding someone who, like, can help you see
Yes.
what's happening, like why you keep getting stuck, like why you're not able to do the things that you really, really want to do, those creative dreams, those beautiful things that you were like, you know that you have that in you, but you just don't know how to get it out. And I had a creative coach who I met after I made the really hard decision, which everyone who's listening to this, you've heard me talk about this on the podcast before, of how I went from medical school to like leaving medical school and deciding that I really wanted to pursue music and performing arts full time. And it was such a huge switch for me, career change for me, because I like all my life is like do the practical, job, like, and then do the arts on the side. And, it's not like don't do the arts, but like just put them to the side, or just like put them on the side, or like wait till later. And that just made me feel like not, again, like not confident that I could actually have a career or build a career as a performer, or even grow enough vocally or as a performer to even be worth, quote unquote, worth being paid to sing or being paid to teach people how to sing or anything like that. Right. So, but then I got that coach after, like, after leaving medical school. That's when she came into my life. And that's when I was able to start working through that. So, long story short, I'm just trying to like say, like, you guys listening, that it helps so much to have someone who can speak into you and see those areas that you're holding yourself back in, to help you see how to then get out of that so you can build confidence. So, the
Yes. And
yeah, go ahead.
one thing that I will say that was
Hmm.
important for me, I think it's
Yeah,
different for everyone. Everyone is very different.
right.
But for me, I think it was important for me to step outside of my circle because I
Mm,
wasn't
yes,
willing to be completely raw and honest with everybody in my circle.
yes.
And I don't think I realized that at the time,
Mm,
but there were some raw feelings and emotions and just processing that would be really painful for other people who loved me to see and experience.
mm,
And I always tell the story with coaching. The very first time I got coached, I sobbed through the session
mm.
and I didn't go back for 3 months because it was so painful to get that real. But it was the best thing ever. I
I got
knew that
chills.
I needed it, right?
Yeah.
But it's so if you're on the fence of getting a coach, I always say to people, even on my podcast, I'm like, even if it's not me or Estelle as a singing coach, a voice coach,
Mm,
find someone that is aligned, a coach that's aligned with whatever you need help with, and
mm,
book one session and just see what that one session does for you because it is truly life-giving. And it is insane to me how important that mirror of someone who doesn't know you, who has no preconceived notions of you, and the fact that they, our loved ones, they mean the best, right? But they know us, they have this idea of who we are, and we conform to who they believe we are. That's just what we do. And if we are in a place we've never been with pain, it's really hard to move out of that without having someone with us that doesn't know us
yeah.
the way we used to be.
Yeah. That's
If
so good. That's so true. I
Yeah.
literally never thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
It makes you so upset sometimes when you're like, oh, I wish I could talk to, like, say this to this person who's known me for so long, like, but I just don't feel like they'll get it or they'll be able to hear me. And so I just won't say anything, or I just won't like
Yeah.
be myself or like express this part of me. But like, it doesn't mean that you can't express it. Maybe you just find another safe space where you can uncover that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
wow. That's
You always
really
want to
good.
share. I encourage people to share, but
Mm,
but look at it like this. When you tell your mom or your dad or your brother or your husband that you're hurting, what do they want to do for you?
yeah, they want to fix it. They want to
They
help you
want to
fix it,
fix
right?
it.
Yeah.
And they know the happy-go-lucky you that
Right.
was before, right? They want to
Right.
get to you that, and this is just human nature. They want to get you
Yeah.
back there the quickest way possible.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what I have learned coaching all the people is that you need to go through the dirt to be happy-go-lucky. And
Right.
that means you can't skip over it.
Yeah.
When you do a garden, you can't just plop stuff down there. You've got to make sure the soil's right. You've got to make sure there's fertilizer. You've got to make sure that the foundation is there. And it's no different. If you want to go off and be confident speaker, get on stages, you want to deal with all that stuff that you've got in there that's in your head the minute you
Yeah.
step on stage. Because when you step on stage, it'll come flying back because that's your most vulnerable state, right?
Mm,
So that's the piece that I think is important for all of us to understand is that the people who love us most, it's not that they're not, they don't want to hear it and you can't share it. It's that if you want to get better, oftentimes it requires you going outside of your circle to get better, to be
mm.
vulnerable, to work on that dirt that you have. And they will also be your best cheerleaders when you
Yeah.
get done, right? But it's just a journey. It is a journey, and you just have to be willing to take the steps in
Yeah.
the
Thank
journey.
you for sharing that. It's so real. And you went right in the direction I was gonna go in of like for the creative who's listening to this and like, okay, they want to like they do are, they're able to recognize that they do want to get to this state of being on the stage and performing and singing. And what if they came to you, or like if they were wondering those first steps of like actually building confidence,
Mhm.
um okay, before we can even build the confidence, you have to get into the dirt and then build from there. So what are like the first few steps that you would give like someone who's a singer or aspiring singer wanting to start using their voice, wanting to start doing something artistic on the side, doing a creative outlet, exploring a creative outlet, and there's resistance there? Like what are the first few steps that you would tell them so that they can build confidence over time? And then we'll get into
Yeah, love
some of the other
it.
stuff.
So the biggest thing is knowing what that is, what your resistance
Mm.
is, or knowing what your all the dirt, right?
Yeah.
So it requires action, which makes everybody uncomfortable, right? Because
Yeah.
action isn't just sitting there thinking about it at home. Action is actually going out and doing some of that.
Mm.
Could it be speaking to your specific audience if they want to be on stage to go take an, go do something improv? And when I
Yeah.
say something improv, like just do something that you're uncomfortable doing.
Yeah.
It could be getting on the elevator and facing backwards. It could be anything small. But what you want to do is figure out what is your brain going to do? What are the thoughts that pop up for you
Mm.
when you do that thing that's uncomfortable? Because that's going to be that's going to show you in the mirror like here are the little evil doubts that come up. Here are the little insecurities that pop up. And here are the what I'm resistant. Usually resistance is when you know what you have to do and you're like holding on to like, oh, I don't want to do it. So you can figure out all that stuff, but you kind of almost have to go into the fire. I can sit with someone and have conversations with them, and I can usually pick out a few things. Like there's a consistent thing throughout someone's life where they've had doubts about their abilities, or maybe like I had a math teacher when I was in fifth grade who told me he was just really rude to me in class. So after that, I was like, I'm horrible at math, which is not
Wow.
true. I'm great at math.
Wow.
But I had that insecurity my whole life. And until I coached myself, well, I had a coach work through that with me. I was like, oh, it's not that I'm bad at math. I had a situation in a classroom, no big deal. And separating that helped me clean that up for my brain. And now I don't have those thoughts. But here's what's real. When you have a thought, your thought creates a feeling in your body, a vibration in your body. That vibration in your body, that feeling that you have that was created from that thought, it actually gives you the action or lack of action that you're going to take. It's
Yeah.
either going to stop you in your tracks or you're going to keep going. And whatever that action is that you take is actually going to create the result you have. You're either going to be up on the stage performing or you're going to be too scared and on in the chair watching everyone else perform. Which either way is okay. Let me just say that. If you're scared and it just so happens that you don't want to get on stage, that's okay. But if you want to change and you want to go on stage and you want to be a singer and a performer, then the most valuable thing you can do is push yourself in uncomfortable situations or put yourself in uncomfortable situations and see what the thoughts are that are preventing you from doing it.
Mm.
That's where your work starts. And I have heard that over and over and over. I used to teach in front of hundreds of students at a time, and my instructor who taught me told me every single time I get up before I'm going to get up in front of students, I get sick to my stomach. And I remember asking her, well, does that go away? Because I get nervous too. And I was like, I don't want to do that every single time.
Yeah.
But guess what? Every single time I still get a little nervous when I'm doing something. And every
Yeah.
single time I do my podcast, I have a little bit of nerve, right?
Yeah.
And that you just learn to use that energy for the performance, which I'm sure you know yourself. But it's just about getting to figure out what are the thoughts that are preventing you from doing what you want to do? What are the thoughts that are, and the other piece of it, I'll tell you, is teaching people how to be uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So Estelle, when you go on stage, what happens to your body? Do you know what happens to your body? Do you
Yes.
get,
So for me personally,
yeah.
yeah, I definitely get a little bit nervous anytime I go on, like I'm about to perform, sing anywhere, even if it's like singing in church every single weekend. When I would like would be worship, like leading worship and stuff, I would still get like a little, there's just like a little, just a little bit, but because it was so consistent, like over time, it was like, okay, we just got to go. And I didn't even have time to think about it. But I would like, but anytime I go to perform, like open mic nights or anything like that, that I do audition, you get that feeling of
Yes. So what else
a bit
happens
of
in your body?
anxiety.
Think
Mhm.
about that feeling. What else happens in your body?
Yeah. So for me, I do start to shake a little bit. Like my hands will shake a little bit. My even my voice will shake a little bit, right? Which is something that as a singer and an actor, like I had an acting audition yesterday, and like I'm like, well, you gotta push through it because I gotta speak, you know? So the shaking is always like the biggest thing for me. I do nervous talking a little bit.
Uh-huh, don't we all?
And shallow breathing for sure. Shallow breathing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will walk people through that exact thing that you just did. Because
Okay.
once you know all of that,
Yeah.
what it how long do you think that lasts for you?
For me,
Generally.
like a few minutes before I get into what I'm doing for like an audition, I'll be, we'll just be very practical for everyone listening because some of you guys are auditioning and stuff like that. Auditions can be really short. So it's like my nerves will go away literally that audition's over and I'm like, well, okay. So because it's you might only get like a few minutes in the room, right? So
Right.
you might be dealing with your nerves the entire time. But then in a performance, you'll have a lot more time usually. So it's like you have a few minutes of nerves and then you get into the song and you're good to
Mhm.
go, right? So it
But the
depends on
reality is,
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry,
no,
go ahead.
you're good. You're good.
The reality is that it only lasts for a few minutes for most
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
So when you consider that, can I build my resilience to handle a couple of minutes of
Hmm.
being uncomfortable to have my dream?
So good. That's so
That's it.
good.
That's all it is. Now, saying that makes it so easy, right? But we all know, right? That's not the reality. But the whole point, and you do this, you just mentioned you sing at church. Is that
Hmm.
what you so
Yeah.
you're practicing. So practicing even that, just getting up in front of people is a good way if you have um clients that are listening in or potential clients that are listening into your podcast. If you want to be a person who's willing to get up on stage, you have to get good at being uncomfortable. And uncomfortable looks different from everybody. So I had a friend who used to sweat really bad. So what we talk about is like figure out how to deal with the sweating. Like figure out, what deodorant works best or what I know it sounds silly, but what works best for your challenge or whatever it is that you experience when you get super nervous
Yeah.
and practice that. So, what does practicing look like? It means putting yourself in positions where you feel uncomfortable. That could be, talking. I mean, it's really different for everybody because some people are comfortable or uncomfortable in different situations.
Yeah.
Just put yourself in uncomfortable situations, trigger your body response, and then get good at handling that response. But the more you practice it, the less important it becomes. It just becomes like, oh yeah, I know that my stomach always turns. My
Mm,
palms always get a little clammy. So I'm not shaking anybody's hands a minute before they're doing something scary. I just know my body reactions and I know how to handle them now.
mm,
And it's just that, can you handle? I mean, I think 5 minutes is generous. I think usually, honestly, it's usually 2 minutes or less.
yeah.
Is 2 minutes of your time being uncomfortable worth your dream of being on the stage?
Mm.
It's worth
That
it.
is so powerful. That is so good. I love like, can you tolerate a few minutes of discomfort for your dream? And that goes to like the idea of you have to know what, not only what your dream is and what that desire that you have is, but why it matters to you. I think is so important. Like, why is that important to you? So for you, like when you were, starting your coaching journey, you knew why it was important to you. Like you figure out how to work through what was happening for you so that you could build confidence in yourself again, because you knew that you were a new wife, like newlywed, like you were like, you knew that you wanted to be there for your husband and be there for your guys' marriage and for your life. You wanted to show up for yourself. And for us as artists, as creatives, we have to know, why do I want to do this thing? Why is it important to me that I want to start singing? And if that reason is that I just want to be creative in some way, like that is more than enough reason to tolerate a few minutes of discomfort. Is like, I deserve to be creative and have a creative expression that's worthwhile. So I just want to like lean into the idea of like, what's the purpose? What's the why? Does that help
Yes.
people overcome something like stage fright, something like, putting themselves out there, like no
Yeah, and
why?
sometimes when
Yeah.
I'm coaching people, we reverse engineer it
Mm,
where we talk about what is the feeling because 90% of what we do in life is because of the feeling we believe we're going to have.
yeah.
Now, that is, buying even something as buying a new car, we think we're going to feel so much better when in reality, sometimes yes, sometimes no. So if you will tap into what you think you're going to feel at the end of being on stage, let's just imagine that you said you auditioned yesterday. So
Yeah.
you auditioned, was it singing
It
or?
was it was for a straight play, so just acting and just did a monologue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just that, no big deal. That's a huge deal. That's
Well,
awesome.
yeah, it is a big deal because it's amazing. It was fun, but not
Yeah.
not having to sing or dance as well. So just the simply the
There you go.
monologue.
But here's what's fun for me is that what you just said and your face lit up
Yeah.
because, oh, it was so fun. And
Yeah.
so that's what you're after. So getting past that 2 minutes of discomfort, I'm after what I'm going to feel after I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Is that fun? Is it accomplished? Is it that moment where you're, you know, bowing to the audience and everybody's clapping, that exhilaration that comes? What is that feeling that you're after? And it could be the experience of it. It could be that you just enjoy the true vocal, what do you call that, acting experience, that it
Yeah.
gives you such joy. Whatever that is, that's the part that you need to guide your thoughts to. Yes, you deal with the dirt, right? But you don't want to spend a ton of time in the dirt. You don't want to be there all the time. You want to plant your seed and move on and nurture it. And the problem is that where most of us are stuck is in the thoughts that are in the dirt, right?
Mm.
But if you can cross that bridge and go, okay, after that 2 minutes of discomfort, man, that was fun. I was nervous getting in front of all those people and, speaking out this dialogue. But guess what? I left and I was exhilarated and had lots of energy. So I don't know about you, but even when I do a podcast episode, when I get done, I feel amazing.
Yes. 100%.
Is that not the best? When I hit
Yeah.
publish, and there's a lot of steps to it, right? Not just the recording, but when I'm done doing all the show notes and then publishing, I come out and I'm like, I published. Like it's just, yay.
Yay, schedule.
And yeah,
Yeah.
So I used to get sick on the morning, so I published the day before, and
Mm,
when I would wake up and know that people have listened to it, I would get sick to my stomach. Like, what did I say or
yeah.
not say? Because you can't over edit or over worry about it. But now I just am happy when I get it done. And so that's the feeling that you're after
Yeah.
and that you want to go for. So and you're like you are proof. If anybody, I know it's hard because this is a podcast and people can't see it, right? But you, when you made that comment, you're like, yes, it was so fun. Your facial expressions changed, your
Yeah.
arms, your hands were up. Like there's something about that feeling that you get when you do something that you've dreamed about doing. And even if you don't get that part, you still feel exhilarated because
Yeah.
you tried, right?
Yeah. For sure.
So, yep.
For sure. It's so good. Thank you so much. I know we're going to wrap up here, but I want to lean into real quick what you just mentioned about podcasting and the feeling afterwards with podcasting. I really feel like a lot of it is because of the vulnerability of like speaking your mind, speaking your heart, and speaking to, people that you hope will hear and engage and like really be able to be inspired and learn. But also I think it's like it's creating something, right? It's creative expression. And I wonder if for you or for your clients and like for anyone listening who is like thinking about this whole creativity thing and is like wondering about whether they should explore something creative, um do you have like any thoughts about like the correlation between creativity and confidence and how creativity and engaging in creative act in and of itself can build your confidence too? So aside from the fact that singers and actors and performers who are listening to this, already know that they want to be on stage, they know that they want to start performing and overcome fear to do that. Aside from that fact, just like the fact that they are creating in some way, like, does that correlate to confidence, and how so
Mhm.
in your experience?
That is a magnificent question. I love that question. So here's my take on that. I
Mm,
think the short answer, absolutely yes.
yeah.
And here's why. Your human experience, us being here, God created all of us, right? There's so much inside of you, there's so much in your brain, in your body. And when you use all of it being creative, you're
Mm,
using your mind, your hands usually, you're using the senses. So
yeah.
you're drawing in everything about you, your essence, and gifting it to whatever your craft is. That can be
Right.
literally a craft like painting, or it could be a craft of being an artist on stage.
Yeah.
I believe that all of that is extremely important to being creative. And I will tell you, I've worked with children, I've worked with, older adults, I've worked with a lot of people. And one thing that is, if I have somebody who is, well, I'll speak to trauma and let me just say this so nobody gets confused. But I am not a trauma coach. There are coaches out there that speak to trauma, but I am using an example that I have in my life to kind of show the example.
Mm,
But I have a situation where I had a friend who lost her husband and her children were in a lot of grief. And me as well when I was in grief, but I
right.
had them do some crafts, like literally sit down and we did crafts together. It was the first time that we all just felt joy. And it's not that the pain is not still there. It's not that the problem isn't there. But when you take yourself out of your head and you do something creative, you stop thinking all those thoughts that are blocking you.
Yeah.
All the thoughts that are even their pain thoughts or grief. And it's crazy, but all people don't realize how much your thoughts are creating a reality. And there's so much more to that, right?
Right.
But truly, if you're feeling something that is truly painful or hard for you to deal with, if you will just write down whatever those thoughts are that are in your brain, like just write them down, just spend a few minutes and just write them all down and get them out of your head. And there's a process that I'll tell people to go through. Look at it and see, is it true? What are you writing down? Are they true thoughts? Are they just thoughts that you're borrowing from somebody else? Somebody else told you. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have somebody who wants to be on stage, but they were told all their lives that they weren't good enough to be on stage. First of all, I always ask people, have you heard that from someone else? Typically, yes. Somebody else told them that, right? And then the question is, who told you that? Because that person, are they are they skilled? Are they the person trying to hire you right now? Probably not. And are you borrowing their belief? Don't borrow their belief because their belief is a snippet of time in they've been around you. There's so much more to you, even from what your parents see.
Yeah.
So just remember to always just be aware that your thoughts are kind of creating what's happening for you and that your creativity pulls you out of your brain. So if you can be creative for a moment, that will help you get out of your brain and out of those
Yeah.
the doubts, insecurities, resistance, and triggers. And that will help you move forward oftentimes because it's your body is connected, your mind is a very powerful tool, the most powerful tool you have. So when you learn to use it in your favor, it changes everything, literally everything. So
So
that's
good.
my take. Creativity is definitely,
Correlated.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but when I started my podcast, um, even though, I mean, I don't consider my podcast one of the top podcasts. It's just a podcast, like whatever. It's just a podcast, right? But I love doing it. And I feel so fulfilled by the fact that I'm doing something I love. And my whole goal in my life or with what I do is to change the world one woman at a time. I don't even know how it changes the world half the time, but I know that if a person is more confident, they're a better spouse, they're a better mom, they're better at acting, they're better at whatever.
Mm.
And so if I am just the best at my craft, whatever my craft is, my creativity, love, then I'm doing my part for the world. So
Yeah.
what I would say to your clients is be the best at your craft for you. Don't worry about everyone else. There are podcasts out there that are way better than my podcast. I don't worry about them.
Yeah.
I worry about me and I worry about the people that are being impacted by my words and my creativity. And that also is empowering too, because when you think about the arts, when you go to a play, when people walk out, how they feel, you're helping people get out of their heart, out of whatever's going on in their brain, right? You get for a moment, they're in there and they're watching you act and be creative in your skill, whether it's singing or dancing or whatever it is. You're impacting all of those people in their lives for that moment. How powerful is that? That is so fun to think about.
It's so good. Yeah. I love everything that you said. And you even like my last question that I always ask is like if you could speak to the artist who's really, really struggling with their confidence and like struggling with how to even get started to pursue their creative dreams in the performing arts. But I feel like you literally just answered that of like focus on your craft and engaging in your craft and like keep in mind how that can impact so many people. Like that is so worthwhile. Like keep in mind that you can be on stage and you can impact people. Like you can help people come out of what they're going through and start to work through that through your creativity and your creative expression. So I just everything that you said, I feel like we need to go back and go back, you guys, go back and listen again because that was really, really, really rich. And I really appreciate you sharing that. If there is any last word that you'd love to speak to that any last piece of advice that you'd love to give to an artist, please share. But I just feel like that was so powerful.
Yeah, no, I'll just close it by saying this. Every single person out there, you might see someone else who looks like they're confident and looks like they've got the world by their hands, but every single one of us has our own insecurities, has our own things that are holding us back. It is a journey. Confidence is not a destination, it is a journey. So don't expect that you're going to, have this journey and one day it's all going to be over. I'm not going to feel insecure or have be confident all the time because it's not a reality. And that is okay.
Yeah.
So that's all I would say is that be okay not being okay because it's normal. It's absolutely normal.
I'm so glad that you said that. That was a perfect way to end because I agree. I definitely don't ever want anyone to listen to me on the show or anyone else who comes on the show and think, well, they've got it all together. No, 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 no. We're still continuing to build confidence over time. I always talk about build confidence over time, but you got to get started. You got to start somewhere. And you guys definitely start with everything that Heather said in this episode. Go back and listen, and then also connect with Heather. Heather, tell them where they can connect with you, learn from you, work with you, all the things, because I want people to
Okay,
come
yeah.
listen to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so my company name is HC Edwards Coaching. That's my company, but the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast is the best way to just connect with me. Because if you connect with me by podcast, which is where you are already, then you can find out all the other ways to connect with me. I am on Instagram and Facebook, but I'll be honest, I don't play there very often. It's kind of a hit or miss because I'm typically coaching and I have I just do other things. So
Yeah.
find me at the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. I actually have the crazyconfidencecoach.com as well. So you can find me there and just go from there. But I really appreciate you having me on. It's been really fun. And I would just say to all your audience, just go for it. Like be comfortable being uncomfortable and you can do it. I know you, it's so fun to watch people who finally just do it and they're like, oh, I really can do it. And you can. So, yeah.
So good. From the beginning to the end of the podcast, you've been so encouraging and so inspiring. So I definitely want everyone to go listen to your show as well, where they can get even more support and expert advice and everything. So thank you so much, Heather. This was so fun. I
Thank
learned so
you.
much.
Yes.
Like this was
We'll have to
helpful for
come and
me.
play again.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so, so much for listening to today's episode and to this show. I'm so in awe of you for being here and showing up for your creative gifts. That takes courage. Don't forget to join the Performing Arts community on Facebook for support and inspiration as you continue on your journey. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with someone. It means so, so much. Thank you again, and don't forget to keep singing, acting, dancing, performing, and living creatively. Talk to you next time.